And I would like to tell you, to have please the microphones off during the session, and at the end, everyone will be able to speak for the questions and answers round. We will start with this introduction, and later we will listen to the three wonderful speakers that we have gathered today. They will deliver a presentation of 10 minutes each. And to be sure that they have the time to deliver their message, we will listen to the three presentations first, and later at the end, we will have like around 10 minutes of questions and answers, okay? So talking about World Ocean Day, I don't know if you feel it. I don't know if you are in a celebratory mood, but today, and actually now, we are in a celebration, okay? Unfortunately, it is not a bank holiday, well, but we are now celebrating because every year there is World Ocean Day that is taking place each 8th of June, with the objective to raise information and to make the public aware of the importance of protecting the oceans and the sustainable management of its resources. It is important that this objective to be reached, it needs a collaborative conservation, because this is a problem of everyone. That's why throughout the years, World Ocean Day has created a global network of more than 140 countries all around the world. Okay, because thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit about history also. 30 years ago, more or less, is when Canada proposed the concept of World Ocean Day at the Earth Summit. 10 years later, it already began the Ocean Project to promote and coordinate World Ocean Day. 1 year later, it started the website of the campaign, but it was still necessary to wait another 5 years for the United Nations to officially recognize this day, 8th of June, as the World Ocean Day. And ever since, it has been growing and growing. And that's how last year it was launched a new web page, and they reach more than 450 million people all around the world. Every year there is a different topic, a different theme, and the topic for 2021 is the ocean, life and livelihoods. They put the focus in the importance of different facts they want everyone to know. For example, the ocean covers 70% of the planet. And sorry, there is someone with the microphone on. Please, if you could mute yourself. Thank you. The ocean covers 70% of the planet's surface, and it also produces half of the planet's oxygen. In addition, it's important for biodiversity. It has an economical role. It also provides a protein source of more than 1 billion of inhabitants. But despite these benefits, the ocean is in danger, and we need to promote its protection. For example, during the last years, and 90% of big fish populations have been affected, and around 50% of coral reefs have been destroyed. That's why from World Ocean Day, they support the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal 14, which is conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources by 2030. Talking more about this objective, the oceans were already in danger before the pandemic, of course. One of the main threats is the acidification, and it has been estimated that in the next 80 years, the acidity of the seas is going to increase around 100, 150%. And now, after the COVID, we have seen a drastic reduction in human activity, and that's have brought us an opportunity, a chance for the oceans to recuperate. And following this objective, a lot has been done already. For example, 97 countries, they signed the first binding international agreement to reach a more sustainable and more responsible fishing. Also, during the last 20 years, it has been increased the number of marine biodiversity areas that have been protected, but there is still a lot to reach, because, for example, in first world countries, the sustainable fisheries still have a very low impact. That's why the conservation action focus they have for this year led to the campaign 30 times 30. It means that they want to protect 30% of the oceans by 2030. This is very important because all the ecosystem are interconnected, and the ocean has a key role in the climate. So to protect the sea will have a positive impact in our society. And they want everyone to take action. That's why they are asking all the individuals to sign the 30 times 30 for nature petition, which is available at their webpage that you can find there. So feel free to participate. And that said, let's go with the real interesting part. We have a great panel of speakers today. We have been very lucky. And first, we will have Javier Garat Perez delivering a presentation about how fisheries contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals that I have spoke before. Later, we will listen to Emma Norton talking about local and regional authorities protecting the marine environment. And the third one is Alexander Cornet talking about delivering on good ocean governance and preservation through maritime spatial planning. So, Javier, muchas gracias, bienvenido.
Thank you very much, Jose, and thank you to the organizers for the invitation. I'm going to share my screen. And by the way, happy World Ocean Day. As you were saying, we are celebrating today this wonderful day. Can you see my screen? Because I don't see it.
Yeah, I can see your presentation, yeah.
Okay, so if I do like this, will be better. It's now better. It's now better.
Now it's full screen. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So as I said, as you said, I'm going to talk about how fisheries contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm going to try to be positive and send positive messages. We are used to receive negative and catastrophic messages about what's going on in the ocean and about the impacts of fisheries. But as I'm working for the fishing industry as Secretary General of the Spanish Fishing Confederation and the President of Europêche, the European organization, I will try to give you some positive ideas about what's going on fisheries and how we contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm sure that there will be others that maybe can say a few negative things. So I will not go into the details of the 17 goals because I guess you are already aware, and I will concentrate on how we contribute to it. Despite COVID-19 difficulties, and because we have, as all the sectors, we have suffered this pandemic, despite the threats that are there, pressures from those who want to limit our activities, those who are attacking several fishing gears, the challenges of the Green Deal. You mentioned the 30% marine protected areas goal, and that is included in the European Biodiversity Strategy, the illegal fishing and unfair competition, climate change, pollution, acidification. Well, those are difficulties, threats, challenges that we have in front of us. But despite all these things, as I said before, I'm going to talk about how we are contributing to these Sustainable Development Goals, starting with something that we discovered, it was declared during the pandemic. We're talking about an essential and strategic activity in the world. And this has been declared by most of the countries in the world. And I'm completely sure that at least we contribute to 10 of the 17 SDGs. We will see each of them in the following presentation. First of all, no poverty and decent work and economic growth. 1 in 10 people approximately rely on fisheries and aquaculture for their livelihoods. You were mentioning that the title this year was The Ocean Life and Livelihood. Well, a lot of people is dependent on fisheries. Actually, according to FAO, 880 million people depend on the fishing value chain, and around 200 million people works directly or indirectly in marine fisheries. Those are important figures. And concerning decent work, the SDG number 8, we are promoting the ratification of International Labour Organization Convention 188, which established the conditions for on board of the vessels. By the way, thanks to the agreements between Europêche and ETF, the European Transport Federation, the trade unions, the European Commission had to propose a directive that finally was approved to transpose to the European Union legislation the Convention 188. Not all the member states have already ratified, but we hope that sooner than later they will do it. And in order to avoid poverty and hunger, our people, our fishing industry has been donating fishery products to social organizations and institutions, mainly during this pandemic. They do it all over the year, but mainly during the pandemic, it has been something that is there, and it's a demonstration about how we are contributing to that. I guess a few pictures that I took myself from different vessels. Left, bottom trawler in the Mediterranean, to the right a poor seiner, and to the right down an almadraba, which is a special gear to fish bluefin tuna in the Mediterranean. Also, following these two goals, our companies in the world have been helping to build kindergartens, schools, and sport schools for the children in these countries, not only in the European Union, but also in third countries. We have been supporting for social interest foundation. We have been building houses for our workers and families. The companies have been donating essential items. We have been betting for labor inclusion and giving scholarships and students' aid programs. When we talk about fisheries, we don't only talk about a vessel and a fisherman. We need to talk about the importance of the value chain. We have to multiply by 5 the impact. There are many people who are responsible for bringing fish from sea to the plate, the farm to the plate, and in some coastal areas, more than half of local jobs are thanks to the fishing sector, and a clear one, it's Galicia, where it's the most important in Spain. So we need to take into account fishermen, auxiliary industry, markets, processors, transport, fishmongers, import, export, etc., etc., etc. When we talk about Sustainable Development Goal number 5 and gender equality, it's a reality that women represent 19% of primary activity and 50% of secondary activity in the fisheries world, and 40% of artisanal fishing is carried out by women. So worldwide, women represent approximately 50% of the seafood value chain, and this is very important. In our case, in Spain, they occupy around 35.4% of the value chain. If we talk about hunger, zero hunger, and good health and well-being, I think that fish represents 20% of the animal protein consumed daily by 3.1 billion people, and 15% by another 1.3 billion. These are figures from FAO. And more than 1 in 8 adults are obese, and 1 in 3 women of reproductive age has anemia. And we see how the trends are of people who has not enough food. We see that in spite of the fact that the trend has changed in the last few years, it's still a serious problem. So fish is a very important part of their food. Following these 2 goals, we see here that 95% of artisanal fishing landings are for local consumption. And the world population, as you know, is growing, and according to FAO, probably we will have more than 2,000 million people in 2050, arriving to 10,000 million people, and they will need to be fed healthily. And the best way to feed these people in a healthy way is consuming fish and shellfish. So food production should increase in the coming years by 70%, according to FAO figures. That's why we talk about the perfect protein and how good it is to eat food and shellfish. The facts are there, and besides the protein, we have certain vitamins like A, D, and B12, and we have a lot of minerals like selenium, iodine, iron, calcium, zinc, etc., etc., and of course the famous omega-3 fatty acids. I will not get into too many details, but what I can tell you is that it's very good for health. It's good for your brain. It's good for your immune system, for the articulations, for the vision, for the heart, for the metabolism, for the blood, for the skin, for everybody. And it's demonstrated scientifically and medically that it produces happiness. So it is very good to eat food and of course fish and shellfish. Concerning number 12, we see this is a Rabobank graphic of fish trade flows, and it's impressive. The fish is one of the main food that is merchandise is traded in the world, and this picture shows you how it is. It's the animal protein with less impact on carbon footprint in its production. This is not too many people knows about this, but it's a reality, and there are certain studies about it. So we're also contributing to climate action. As I always say, the best way to fight against climate change is to eat sustainable seafood, because if we eat this, we will not eat other as I call trash food, and it will be much healthier for you and with less impact to the climate. And for that reason, our companies are investing in certification systems for production of processes and the use of technological improvements to manage resources more sustainable and efficiently, improve management of the waste generated, reducing chemical and biological contamination. This is normally for processing companies, controlling emissions to the atmosphere and water, and promoting circular economy practices through the recovery of waste. I think the best example of circular economy is what we are doing with the marine litter that we are collecting from the bottom of the sea. We are classifying it. We are taking to the harbors, and once there, we create, or other companies create, certain companies create clothes, some other sunglasses, some other recycled bottles, etc., with, as I said, very good example of circular economy. And we have been working in traceability from ship to the table, and with new technologies, blockchain. We already have several experiences on it, and we are proving in other fisheries to demonstrate how blockchain can guarantee traceability. And I think this is good. We have been investing in energy efficiency, and we have been certifying our fisheries with certain certification schemes like APR, which is tuna responsible fishing, or MSC, or Friends of the Sea, etc., etc., etc. The most important, of course, is number 14, as it was mentioned by Jose at the beginning. I will not get into details because I'm running out of time. But I think an important message is that 65.8% of the stocks that are in the world are well and sustainably managed. There are 24.22% that are overexploited. That's a problem, and we have to concentrate on those to recover those species and to guarantee 100% of the stocks are exploited in a sustainable way. And we think that this is possible. Well, we have worked in several measures to get this. I will not go into details, but I can assure you that we have been working, and we are working on selectivity on fishing gears, on technical measures, etc., etc., etc. Then, concerning number 16, we are promoting the state of well-being at national and international levels, and to guarantee equal access to justice for all, to reduce corruption and bribery in all its forms. It has happened, but in the past, and we're trying to avoid that this happens in the future. We have initiatives like the Tuna Transparency Initiative that is going in that direction. And what we try also is to do that and expand that in the international organizations like regional fisheries management organizations, looking for a level playing field in all the areas in the world. And lastly, the number 17 partnership for the goals. I think that it's very important that the fishing industry works with the scientists. We are doing that. Works with some NGOs, those who are responsible and are trying to find solutions to the problems that are there in the seas, and also with companies that are providers of the different services. So this is something that we are doing, and we want to continue doing in the future. So my last message: please enjoy eating fish and shellfish. You will be healthier, but also very important, you will be happier. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Javier. I totally support that message because, you know, Javier and me, we came from the same province in the south of Spain, and there we eat a lot of fish and seafood. And yeah, actually, when we were planning this event, in normal conditions, we would have taken it, we would have taken this conference on site, and it was planning to deliver to each of you from the audience a dish of mussels with fries, which is typical from Brussels, but you know, COVID, sorry, it's not, we need to adapt to the online format. And we will continue with the online conference with the participation of Emma Norton.
Hello.
Hello, Emma. Sorry for pronouncing bad your surname. I know I'm doing bad, but okay.
No problem. I will probably not even try to pronounce yours. So I will have a presentation and I will try to do it now. Let's see here if it works. But I can say that my name is Emma Norén, and I am from Sweden, and I'm trying here to get the right one. There, I think we have it. And we will show it like.
Yeah, we are seeing your screen now. Mm-hmm.
Now, that worked, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that works. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, what do you say? Not morning anymore, but good day, everyone. And my name is Emma, as I said, and I am the vice mayor of Lysekil municipality. It's a small municipality, about 100 kilometers north of Gothenburg on the Swedish west coast. And I'm also a member of the Committee of Regions, where I was the rapporteur of this opinion called Local and Regional Authorities Protecting the Marine Environment. So I will talk about the topic of the day, but from a local and regional point of view. And but I also would like to give you some backgrounds. As I've written down here, I'm also a marine biologist, so I will actually start to present myself and why I think this is so important. This is actually me. When I was 16, 17 years, I moved to Lysekil to study marine biology. And as you see, I have my head shaved, and that was because I was diving so much. So my hair broke down, so I had to take it off because I wanted to be underwater all the time. And after education, both here and in the University of Gothenburg and so on, I start to work as I did some science, and I was doing my PhD work on shallow shores. And then I became the head of the public aquarium here in Lysekil, where we show the wildlife, the marine wildlife of the sea just outside to a broader audience. And I was doing a lot of teaching as well. And here you see me letting out one of our lesser spotted dog sharks. That was actually a project, or is a project, where we breed these sharks. That is a species that is not going so well for any longer in Sweden. So we breed them and we let them out in the free again. And we do it in public to make awareness of it. But however, even if it's very nice to be out, be speaking and talking to people and showing the wildlife, I thought it needed to do something more. And I actually went into politics, or the politics asked me to go to them. And I became a member of the Green Party. And most of my time I've been working with the marine issues, and I've been a member of the Swedish Parliament and many other different places, and now I'm the vice mayor here in Lysekil. and I also have some regional assignments. And that was one way to try to make this topic and the awareness of the ocean and the how bad it actually is and what you can do about it in another way than just telling about it. And right now I also have another hat, and that is I'm the chair of the Swedish Cross-Party Committee on the Environmental Objectives, and that is under the government. And we have been working for 2.5 years with a committee report on how to come up with better marine policies and laws and so on. And all the parties in the Swedish Parliament was in this, and we worked, as I said, for 2.5 years together with experts and everything. And the result is over 100 proposals, and it was handed over unanimous with all parties standing behind it to the Swedish government in January. And in the same time, I was also assigned as this rapporteur in the Committee of Regions, and I could use a lot of the knowledge I have gained during this time to doing this work. So what's up with the sea? Well, we have talked already a lot about problems. I will only go over them briefly. We know that fisheries, as we just heard, have some or quite a lot of impact. Different fishing methods have different impacts. We know eutrophication is a really bad problem, especially here where I live and in the Baltic Sea region. We know that the climate changes that are going on with more CO2 in the atmosphere is affecting the ocean really bad. We see ocean acidification, we see temperature rise and temperature changed. We have pollutants, both the one we don't see, like pharmaceuticals or different kind of poisons, so to speak. And also the big one like plastics that you actually see and that most people nowadays are getting aware of. Aqua aliens is another name for the right species at the wrong place or wrong species at the right place, where we actually by traffic shipping and also by buying different kind of pets and everything, relocate animals, and they come to new places, and due to climate change they also get to stay. Sometimes they could do it even before, but nowadays it's even easier for many of them to establish in a new environment, in a new habitat, and can cause a lot of problems for the stocks or the different species that are native by spreading diseases, but they can also do bad engineering problems by digging out sand dunes and so on. And we know that shrinking place, we human occupy a lot of areas in the sea, and we take places from the animals, so to speak, or we have to be at the same spots, and that is quite bad. So this is not new, and we have had the Marine Strategy Framework Directive to work from in the EU level for 20 years or something now. And the main goal there is that we will have the good environmental status of all our sea. But unfortunately, we do not reach it. The Commission published a report a year ago, and it showed that we do not reach good environmental status, and the loss of biodiversity is not halted in European seas, despite that so many measures and actions are taken. So what does this have to do with local authorities? Well, this is my hometown, Lysekil, where I live, and as you see, we are surrounded on the sea. On the right side, you see the municipality, and out here is the main town. So we are a small peninsula out in the Skagerrak. We are dependent on the sea, but everything we do will also everything will be noticed in the sea. Even if we have farming here inland, how that is done will affect the sea. How we plan the sewage or the plumbing and day water treatment and so on, it will affect the sea. So everything that we do on land will affect the sea. And many of the different responsibilities of this is actually on a local level. I think it's about 70% of the EU legislation is implemented on local or regional authorities level. And planning, of course, here we see a lot of boats in shallow areas, which is the one that is most important for the animals. And as I used to say, the sea mirrors our lifestyle. What we do on land ends up in the sea. And we see the global trends. Here is how the European seas will be warmer. This is if we reach, or what to say, stay below 2 degrees Celsius, but we will still have a lot of higher level of, it will not be 2 degrees all over the world, it will be more in some areas. And we can see that the European seas are hotspots where it will be even warmer. And that's affect what measures and what we can do. Sorry, wrong way. We also see that eutrophication, which is mainly due to how we use the agriculture, but also from traffic and transportation, have a large effect. And we can see in the Baltic, the area of dead bottoms with no oxygen is actually the size of Iceland. So if you put that there, you can see the dead bottoms in the Baltic Sea. So we have to think global, we have to act local. And in the report that I was the author of, and that was submitted in the Committee of Regions, we had, I think it was 47 bullet points or even more. And here I highlight some of them. And as I said, all the members stood behind this one. So one thing that we stated out was that we are deeply concerned about the marine environment and that we did not achieve this goal of good environmental status. And all local and regional, all the members of the Committee of the Regions say that we need to have 30% marine protected areas, and we have to include the fish stocks recovery areas. We have to, as it's provided under the CFP Common Fishery Policy, and the areas with the most destructive fishing techniques and economical activities are restricted. So we need to make this. Sorry, I'll take it away. We stress out that the need to recognize the role of subnational authorities like the local and regional authorities in the Marine Strategy Framework Directive implementation. As I said, many of the European legislation is actually implemented on the local level, and then we need to be involved. Calls on the Commission to propose an EU rule on quota obligation on recycled nutrients in fertilizer to market it in EU in a way to make a circular economy out of it. Stress out the true value of nature and biodiversity. It needs to be fully taken account when we rebuild our economy through the green recovery and resilient plans. We cannot take a shortcut. We need to have the true value within this package. And we also stated out that we believe that all kind of harmful subsidies in fisheries that contribute to exceed fishing capacity and overfishing and climate change and also acidification must end. I'm sorry, I haven't spoken English for so long now during COVID, so I hope you bear with me. And we also calls on the Commission to create a 2030 European Marine Biodiversity Task Force, a task force of people that can help local and regional authorities how to make use of the funds, what actions to be needed. And we have a system like this in Sweden on a national level, and I think it could be scaled up to European level and make action happens. And of course, the most important one, we call on the ocean law in the same spirit as the climate law. We cannot say that ocean is one thing on the side. We have to make sure that ocean actually is on the same level as climate, because climate and ocean are two sides of the same coin. And I'm sorry for the extra timing there, but I think we can do it. With the right support, local and regional authorities can set up new measures and projects that can contribute to saving the oceans while providing employment and boosting the economy. And of course, you can read the full report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Emma. Of course, we can do it, and that's why it's very important to bring professionals like you together here, and that's why World Oceans Day is an initiative that has been growing and growing with the years. Okay, and our last presenter will be Alexandre Cornet. Thank you very much. Welcome, Alexander.
Hi, thanks. So I have a presentation as well. I'll open it now. Yeah.
Okay. There it is.
Cool. Okay. Okay, thanks a lot for the invitation first to talk at this very interesting event. It's always really cool to come back to the Committee of Regions. So you asked us to talk about like ocean and ocean protection at large, and there were just so many topics in the team we could have addressed, but we've picked one that was really very topical as well in the EU bubble, and that could be relevant for regional authorities as well, and which is maritime spatial planning. My name is Alexandre Cornet, so I work at WWF European Policy Office in Brussels, which is sort of an embassy of the WWF networks towards EU institutions. Just to set up the scene, and Emma has already done a great job, so I won't have too much, but what we wanted to say is that there is actually today a growth in the blue economy, which is resulting in spatial expansions of many activities at sea. For instance, we work a lot on offshore renewable energies. Such activities, they do require space, and that creates pressures on what space is available. But this impacts European seas that are already very unhealthy. And here again, Emma, you put the figures in your presentation, but yeah, we failed to reach the good environmental status in 2020, and that was required by EU law, by the way. And the last report from the European Environmental Agency also says that EU marine biodiversity continues to decline, so it's not really a good picture. If you think about big challenges such as climate change, you see that the ocean is key, but that many of the climate solutions that are put forward also require space at sea. But by saying they are key, we mean like through the ocean, you can have climate refugia for some of the marine species. You can have blue carbon sinks, and we also know that the ocean works as a carbon pump. And as a solution, because now we've seen a growth in ocean-based renewable energy solutions, for instance. There was a strategy released by the Commission last autumn. The Parliament is discussing this at the moment as well. But all in all of this results in a competition for sea space. And we make a distinction between the competition between users and uses. By users, we mean the different maritime sectors. For instance, fishers versus offshore wind farms, that's something that we now observe. So the competition between the who, and between the different uses as well. For instance, there are some areas that have historical values, areas that we want to use for conservation or for energy production, so competition between the whats. And the result is that we now need more integrated and forward-looking approach to ocean governance and management. And just to make the point, I went on something called the European Atlas of the Sea, which is a website powered by EMOTNet. So it's a platform run by the European Commission that is integrated data on ocean. I've selected a few layers with different activities, shipping, offshore wind, oil and gas, and extraction, just those activities. And you see how busy our seas already are. So now you can imagine if I had added up the layers for fisheries, for instance, it would have been a mess. And you can't actually use the map because there are too many things on the map. So back to the good ocean governance here, just to say, like, you don't have to read all of the things that are on the picture here. It's from a fact sheet that is available on our website. We can send the link afterwards. But the point we wanted to make here is that what constitutes good ocean governance is it's quite clear. You need to be inclusive, transparent. You need to be science-based, to have compliance, enforcement, and monitoring. With all of this, we already know that good ocean governance can deliver on socioeconomic and environmental benefits. But the question remains, though, then how can we implement this? And there are a few key tools for this, amongst which is maritime spatial planning. But to deliver this also needs to be based on the ecosystem-based approach. And that's what something we wanted to discuss a bit with you today. Just a little intro on what MSP, Maritime Spatial Planning, is for those who are not familiar with the concept. Basically, that's the allocation of spatial and temporal distribution of marine activities. It's a public-led process with stakeholder participation. It has multiple objectives, mainly ecological, social, and economic. It's important to understand that this public policy has not just a regulatory function, so saying what is there, but it's also a catalyst for change, in the words of some academics. So it's a process that you can use to change the way ocean governance work. And this is why it's also an iterative and adaptive process. That's very much what we need nowadays. But if we want this process of allocation of space and activities to be right, we need to base it on the nature. And basically, this is basing it on the ecosystem-based approach. Here we are mentioning maritime spatial planning, but for instance, there is also an ecosystem-based approach to fisheries. In a nutshell, it means that it needs to be based on science. It needs to be based on a really good knowledge of the functioning of marine ecosystems, but also on their limited carrying capacity, the capacity to face all the impact from human activities. It's really important to understand that it's an integrated vision of the marine ecosystem, but also of the variety of uses and services. And in practice, it means understanding the relationship between nature and society on the one hand, but also of the various relationships between the different sea users, different maritime sectors that are benefiting or uses from nature resources and services. The last thing we put forward, that applying this approach also means that we need to find some space for nature and often to reduce human pressure. We've seen it's not so good in Europe, so there really is a need. But in a nutshell, this is an approach that has environmental, but also socioeconomic and a governance dimension. To try to illustrate a bit how this can work in practice and how ecosystem-based MSP can help with some of the key challenges we are facing, we can use the example of marine protected areas, MPAs. Here again, you don't have to read all the details. This is based on a fact sheet we published last year. It's available on the website, and we can send the link afterwards. But what we just wanted to say is that we all know MPAs are a very efficient way to tackle climate change. But the situation in Europe is also that most of them are paper-backed. This means they don't have a management plan in place, and the process through which they were set up maybe was too poor, or in any case, it wasn't good enough for them to deliver. And this is where, for instance, processes such as maritime spatial planning can be useful. It can be useful because it will help to identify the best suitable areas to set up new marine protected areas based on science, because you map out what is out there, what are the different ecosystems, how do they work, are they cross-border or not, for instance. But you also set up a process through which you have discussions between the different stakeholders that will be impacted by the marine protected areas. The coastal communities, the fishers, for instance, sectors such as shipping. Oh, I hear someone talking, so maybe there is a mic that is still open.
Ja, ich habe ein paar Hitze.
And
Ja, ich habe gedacht, das fällt zusammen.
Okay. Yeah. And this is why, yeah, you can use ecosystem-based MSP to deliver on these MPAs targets. By the way, in Europe, we are supposed to reach 30% of marine protected areas by 2030. We are still a long way to this objective. And so how are we doing now, actually? What we wanted to mention first is that in Europe, we have a key piece of legislation for this, which is called the Maritime Spatial Planning Directive. It set up broad goals and requirements, including the need to use the ecosystem-based approach we just mentioned. It's interesting, and because it's a crossover framework that is intertwined with many other policies and legislations at multiple levels. To illustrate this, we've put a picture on the left end of the slide, and you see there is an international layer, there is the European layer, but also a national layer, and I could have added actually a regional layer. It faces many challenges when it comes to the practical implementation, namely because there is a big competition now for space because of growing sectors, but also because we are now trying to set up very ambitious protection targets. In terms of policy making and where we stand, and that's also one of the reasons we wanted to talk about MSP today, is that there was a very important deadline on the 31st of March this year, which was the deadline for European member states to publish their maritime special plans. And what we have observed is that only 6 out of the 22 EU coastal member states have actually published their maritime special plan in time. So meaning most of them are actually late and running, after time in this process. There is another deadline on the 1st of July based on the directive, and that's the deadline for member states to send their maritime special plans to the European Commission. And that's the deadline the European Commission has decided to work with. So we'll see how many plans are delivered by then. On the 31st of March 2022, the European Commission will have to review how this directive and the ecosystem-based approach in this directive have been implemented by EU member states. Just to mention, because I know I'm now out of time, we've published a position paper, a guidance paper on ecosystem-based MSP this year, which set up various indicators on how to apply this. Again, this is available on our website. It also explains a little bit more in detail what the ecosystem-based approach to MSP is and what MSP is for non-specialists. And for us, the next step is to assess the EU maritime special plans based on those indicators to make sure member states have done their job and applied an ecosystem-based approach. And we will be doing it with our national offices. So stay tuned, and I'm sure my colleagues actually at national level will reach out to your regional authorities, because the last point I wanted to mention is that regional authorities are very important in the maritime special planning process. And that's it for me. Thanks a lot, and happy to have any question afterwards.
Thank you very much, Alexander. And yeah, we're a bit late for the round of questions, but I think we still have a bit of time to answer your the questions you may have. I have seen in the chat you haven't posed any, but you can. Now is the moment to open your mic and ask. Take advantage of the guests we have. And if we don't have time now to answer your questions, or you don't have time to ask, please make sure that you can always reach me by email. You have my contact because you receive my invitation and my poster. So you can always send me the question to me and I will forward it to the guest, okay? So if anyone wants to ask something now, please take the floor.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Hi, and thank you all for the interesting presentations. Well, I maybe have a little bit of different point of view from the perspective about the ocean, because I'm from a country with no sea access. I'm from Austria. But I want to know, how do you all see the increasing economization of the ocean, especially regarding the interconnected ecosystems? And I especially think about two things there. Offshore wind farms that support green energy, but I heard that they can also have a positive impact with providing shelter, hunting grounds, and cover for marine animals, but also maybe not. And deep sea mining, as far as I know, there is not much going on at the moment, but nations are already positioning themselves to be on the forefront of this trend in the future. And I mean, it's a big economic opportunity for them. And especially regarding the interconnectedness of the ecosystems, and we don't know what will be the possible outcome of deep sea mining because of sediment spread and whatever. So this is my question, or my two questions. Thank you.
I can start.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your question. When it comes to windmills out on the sea, it's very much of how they are constructed and where they are put together. You cannot say they are good or you cannot say it's bad. Usually the construction time is one of the worst part because you have this constantly noise that you make when you pull down the poles, polling sound that is not good, especially not for marine mammals. But there are some techniques that you can do and different times of the year where you can make the constructions where they are better or not as bad as they can be. But there are not so many regulations on that. I know that Germany have their own laws there, but there is no common laws how it should be done within EU as I am aware of, but we should have that. And also limiting of the sound and so on. And now usually, if you just look 10 years back, you needed to have quite the shallow spot on the sea floor to have the fun, have them. But now you have new technique and you can build them where it's deeper, and you can also have them floating. And then you have the sound that they create by themselves, that you also can make different techniques that can make sure that it's so you can make it good or you can make it bad. So I cannot see it's one single answer there. However, when it comes to deep sea mining, I am totally against, and I think we know too little of those habitats to do mining down there. And I think that when we just have learned that we should not use fossil fuels, I don't think we should go down to the sea bottom and take the minerals. So for me and for my party, I think it's a big no-no, and I hope that it will be banned. Thank you.
Okay, I hope we have something in the chat. Okay, no, it's more information, yeah.
I will add that at the end, all economic sectors have an impact on biodiversity, and that's a reality. The two that you have mentioned, of course, fisheries and gas and oil, all the activities. So what we need to find is a balance between our impact and what we provide. So protection of biodiversity and sustainable use of the resources. In our case, thinking also on food security, because we are feeding the people. I think that there is a huge difference between what we do, in our case, fisheries, with other sectors, because we provide food, and that's very important. But anyway, we all have impact, and the good thing, the thing that we have to do is what Alex Sander was mentioning about the spatial planning. We need to try to get a balance between the different activities with the less possible impact to the biodiversity. And this is what we have to do. I think, for instance, that example in the North Sea is not a good example. If we saw one picture there, and we see that there are so many different activities in a reduced space that I don't think that's a good example of good spatial planning. And from a fisheries point of view, since the beginning, they should take into consideration the fishing industry, traditional fishing industry that has been there, and to try to get that balance that I mentioned.
Yeah, clearly, I don't have many more things to say after that. Yeah, clearly, it's not that it's good or bad, but really, for instance, what you said, Emma, where we put them actually does make a big difference. If you put it into like a very sensitive areas, then the project itself might be good for climate action, but can be a disaster for biodiversity, and that plays a lot. And then it's also very important to pay attention to which technology are being used and which narrative as well. What we see sometimes there are confusion between nature inclusive design, ecological engineering, or restoration, and it's very important to know what you are actually talking about when you implement this project, to take time to use the precautionary principle. which is not always easy because there is a lot of pressure to move swiftly now to address all the targets and challenges we are facing.
Yeah, we have a last 2 minutes. If someone has a quick question. If not, I think, yeah, because Emma, you told me that at 12:59, you sharp, you needed to leave.
Yes, I do. So I will just say thank you, everyone, and please contact me if there's something they has.
Sure.
Things. But
Sure.
I will leave you now and say happy World Ocean Day.
Yeah, thanks to you, and thank you to the other speakers, because you were always very helpful and always with a lot of motivation to participate from the beginning. And this was a great help for us. And yeah, I'm gonna gather the presentations from our speakers and also the recorded video, and I will send to all the attendees, so you will have this conference and have a look at these presentations and share with your network and with everyone that you think is gonna be interested in the ocean topic. So I propose to everyone to celebrate this day, and for today it will be a very good opportunity to eat some seafood. And thank you very much for your participation again.
I will recommend with a copa de manzanilla from sherry wine from our lovely province.
Of course.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
By the way,
Thanks
I
a lot.
forgot to say I'm a member of the European Economic and Social Committee.
You are part of us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Buenas tardes.